Today I have Maggie. She is my friend slash sometimes assistant slash also a makeup artist. We were both from Maine, which is completely ironic. We had no idea. We both moved to Nashville. Did you move during COVID?
A little bit after.
Okay, yeah, so I moved during COVID. We decided we never wanted to shovel again, and so here we are. And I've always wanted to work with Maggie. She is amazing. And I think today we're gonna do kind of like a natural glowy vibe, kind of an everyday look. That's not really everyday, it's a complete lie. But I'm gonna teach you how to do it so you can make it your everyday. I'm gonna start by hydrating the skin with an oil because we are in winter and we're all crusty. So I'm working this oil into my hands before I kind of press it into Maggie's skin. And I really like to prep the skin first before I do anything else because it's gonna soak in while I work on her eye makeup. I do bring it down the neck as well. And you're gonna see at first it's gonna look really, really oily, but don't be scared. Because you can just keep pushing it in. And if you feel like you've got too much by the end, you can always take a little bit off. But initially we want that to get pressed right into the skin and marinate your tasty little steak. And I do take the oil right up to the under eye. I feel like concealer sits a lot softer with a little bit of an oil. And also I do love to use powders even with a natural look. So that's gonna help not cake. Good thing I cut my fingernails off.
Slay.
And I'm gonna put a eye cream right on top of that oil and a moisturizer right on top of that oil. So it's all gonna work together synergistically. And they say you're supposed to use your ring finger because it's the weakest finger to tap on that under eye, but I always forget, so sorry. And then this is the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. It's a thicker face cream, but it's really gonna help keep the skin looking fresh and dewy under all the makeup we're about to put on. That is natural looking, not necessarily natural. There's definitely a difference. You do weddings, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so like you'll get a girl who's, you guys are kind of planning out what makeup look you're gonna do, and almost always like, oh, I want natural. And you're like, all right, natural or natural looking? Because I've had many experiences where natural, where they literally only want like Bonnie Bell chapstick and mascara, and then one that's like a full Kim Kardashian beat, and they're like, this is natural.
Totally.
Oh, is it now? And you can make natural looking a thing, but it takes significantly longer because you're working each product into the skin just over and over and over again. Like it feels like you're blending forever. And when you feel like you're done, you're not done. Just blend a little more. All right, skin is prepped. Now, a lot of times I'll work the eyebrows first just to kind of create a base because I feel like they're gonna be the most aggressive part and it kind of freaks people out. But once you have your eye makeup on, everything starts to pull together nicely. And it's a good baseline. Do you feel like we're out of the brow lamination phase?
I'm not.
You're not out of it?
I've always done like a softer, I like brushing the hairs not so straight up, but like straight.
Not like the electrocution?
Like up and away, kind of like if you're making this motion.
Yeah.
I feel like it goes, like my personal eyebrow hairs look the best.
I'm sorry, I almost killed you there. Yeah. I like to use my fingers to blend up the brow pencil. It just creates a soft effect right in the front, not on the back. Keep going, what you're saying?
No, I love the feathered brow look. I definitely think it looks extreme on some people.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you have the right brows, like my left brow, the hairs in the front stick straight up naturally anyway. So I feel
you're just matching its energy.
Right, the right side I match it, and it looks more. They look more the same when I do it.
I was addicted to it. I'm actually trying to put the brow gel down for right now, just to see if we can, break up with each other.
Okay, well, if you think that the feathered brows are out, what do you think is next? What's the next step for Jess?
I think they're out for me, just simply because my face will no longer tolerate brow gel. It's just too thick. And I used to use the literal hair gel, which that really works. It's the Got to Be, I can't remember the name of the gel. But the minute you start sweating, and in the South, obviously it's hot, everything starts melting. So it just looked crazy. So anyways, I digress.
Do you think like pencil eyebrows are gonna be back?
I hope not, because I'm in big trouble. Because I went through that phase where I plucked all my hairs off.
Yeah, at your wedding, you had like thin eyebrows.
Yeah, like
Someone stalked
Pam
their
Anderson
Instagram.
thin. So this is an eye primer. I'm gonna carve out the eyelid and start creating a nice base for eyeshadow. This is MAC Soft Ochre. I believe that's how you pronounce it, hopefully. But it's just like a skin toned eye primer. You could use your concealer as well. This one is just budge free, like even with oily skin. And I've never done Maggie's skin before, so I don't know what it's capable of, so I like a sure thing. It's also great too because it takes away any redness. And I'm a big pro use your hands kind of person for makeup. The heat of your body helps press the products into the skin. So you don't feel like you have to have the fanciest tool for the exact thing. It could be as simple as your fingers. And I do like to start a little bit thinner with the eye primer, just because if it's too thick, it'll crease through the day. So building up is better than applying one big fat layer from the start. I think this first video will be a really good tell on how terrible my posture is and why my back always hurts, because I can feel my hip aching. I'm gonna set this primer with a powder. This is Charlotte Tilbury 1, and I'm just using a fluffy brush. The fluffier the brush, the less product will be applied, so if you use a more dense brush, you're gonna get more dense product. So one thing I like to do to start my eyeshadow is I line up where my eyeshadow is gonna go by using the bronzer that I'm gonna use. It also creates synergy around the face. I really like when colors and tones tie into each other all over. So this is gonna be an easy way to make things look really natural, because when you're looking at someone visually, like you see all the tones as one, and it's not like one big blotch of bronzer. It's just the whole picture looks really more natural when you're using similar tones or the same tones. And you don't have to worry about being super strategic because we haven't put any foundation or concealer on yet. So when you start with the eyes, you can kind of get crazy and make a mess because you can take a makeup wipe and clean up those edges. And I've kind of already started carving out what I'm gonna do with the little nose contour by bringing it up into the brow and this inner portion right here. And generally when I'm gonna do a nose contour, I line it up to where the eyebrow is. So it's kind of a good thing that you've already done your eyebrows, because this will all make sense in the end when things like your brows are done, you're gonna contour after, and it's gonna be lined up for you already. Like your face, your bone structure is literally a map for how you can make makeup look really natural. It's kind of like don't overthink it, I guess. Maybe because I paint like pictures, it makes sense to me that way, but I don't know. And this is gonna be like a neutral eyeshadow, just a step darker than the bronzer, just to kind of build up the intensity. And I'm really focusing it on the outer corner because I wanna create depth here, and I'm gonna keep the lid a little bit lighter. And I'm using the exact same brush. I think people get really hung up on having like a brush for everything as well. And as long as your brushes are clean initially, like it's not caked with black from the time before, you can use your same brush throughout your makeup look. I'm gonna use like a pinky tone. Unfortunately, all the eyeshadows I'm using today are really randomly different brands for no particular reason. But you kind of can use whatever you have. It doesn't really matter. Just using a neutral skin toned eyeshadow is great. So use the Makeup by Mario. I'm gonna use the white eyeshadow in there just to kind of bring out the intensity of the light tone in the inner corners. And where you put light brings forward and where you put dark recedes. So that's why we're keeping it bright in the center and dark on the outer corners to kind of create a, like that fox eye almost. I don't know if that's still a trend to you.
It is for me.
We're going to go ahead and do a voiceover here because we were rambling on. So this is where I start to blend out neutral tones into the crease of the eye. You can use what you have, like your bronzer, for example, but for me, I'm using the Makeup by Mario eyeshadow palette, and I'm working with neutral mattes, things that are close to skin tone, and you're just going to pick those up, and you're going to hold the brush really gently, and you're going to softly blend those into the crease. you want to hold it softly and apply softly because you don't want to create lines in your eyeshadow. It's really important to gently buff product into the skin, not grind it in. So I like to layer my eyeliners to create depth. And I don't know if you ever see someone's eyeliner and you're like, wow, how do they get that so dark? It's all about layering different tones underneath. And I'm a big fan of mixing textures as well throughout makeup. You'll notice that I'm constantly layering different things. I just think it creates a beautiful aesthetic. So this first color I'm using is MAC Costa Riche. It's kind of a reddish brown. And because your eyes are like a hazily tone, it's gonna really make them look extra hazel. And even if we put a black or brown on top of that, it's still gonna show through. And this eyeliner is super pliable. So I'm really willy-nilly kind of pushing it out and kind of thickening it up. So I put it close initially to the lash line and then I'm buffing it up. So it's gonna create that kind of eyeliner airbrush effect where it's not super harsh. Open. And because I still am not fully committed to anything in particular, I'm just letting my brain to decide as we go what I'm doing today. I don't know, maybe I'll leave it like this. Maybe I'll add eyeshadow, maybe I'll add liquid liner.
When do you feel like you're like, okay, I think I have an idea of what I'm gonna do? Is it this stage?
I just usually take a step back and see how everything looks, and then I'll add as we go, because it is easier to add than take away, of course. So it's better to initially start lighter than go straight in. I'm doing a black liquid liner. And also, like, a lot of people think that they want that, and turns out they didn't. So it's easier for them to look in the mirror and say, oh, I think a little bit more depth would be best, versus, can you please take this jet black liquid Amy Winehouse eyeliner off? And I'm like, well, that's gonna be difficult. Kind of dusting away any flakes here. Open. So it's always good to take a step back. I shouldn't because I'm on film, but take a step back. You'll see most makeup artists go like this and look for some reason, because no one's ever gonna look at someone like that. Like, what are we doing? But we all do it.
I know, it's so true, and you're like.
So I think I'm gonna add a little bit of brown eyeshadow on top. This eyeshadow palette broke. Mario, but that's fine. So I'm just pressing it as close to the lash line as possible. And it's a really great start to use an eyeshadow because it's super friendly for everyone. If you make a mistake, you can buff it out really easily versus going straight in with a liquid. And if you do decide to go in with a liquid, you've already got a map for exactly where the liquid eyeliner goes. So it's gonna be easier for you to make it equal on both sides. Open. And I do have people open their eyes when I'm putting on eyeliner because I want to see how it's going to sit. Because of course the eyelid changes shape when your eyes are open versus closed, which is harder for us to do on ourselves. So you kind of have to take peek breaks and just see what's going on. Are you an eye dragger? Do you drag your skin to do your eyeliner?
Yeah.
Because you're young. You'll regret it.
I think about it every time I do it. I'm like, oh, your skin around your eyes is thin as a rose.
I used to do it as well, and now things are changing. And I wish I could take all the times I drag my eye back.
I try and do a makeup wipe.
Yeah.
But
you could use.
Sometimes she's in a crunch.
Well, we're supposed to be professionals, but if we're not, you could use a piece of Scotch tape.
Totally.
I remember early YouTube, I posted videos like that and talked about Scotch tape, and people would dog on me so hard. They're like, you're supposed to be a makeup artist, why are you using Scotch tape, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, just trying to get by, you know, and help people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I stopped for so long, because I couldn't take the criticism. And now I'm hardened, so I'm back.
Doing some of my own gigs, I've learned that, like through research, if they've asked me to do something that I didn't know how to do and like Google was accessible, you come to find out that like a lot of like the older like makeup artists, they use all these tricks for like movies and stuff. They're really simple. Like they are the Scotch tape of tricks. And so when people rag on it, it's like, that doesn't really make sense because even the pros are doing it. And if it works for us, it's gonna work for you.
Yeah, I mean, what's the big deal? It's making your life easier. Unless you have a tape allergy, don't do it. So I'm just applying a little bit of a shimmer on the lid. It's very transparent, so it's not like that early 2000s glitter that we were rocking. It's like ethereal angel. And you can see as you kind of add different textures and different things, you almost see where there's deficiencies. Like, okay, like I kind of feel like I want a little bit of a harsher line right here now, that this is so attention grabbing here, because it's going to balance everything out. So that's why I say, like, I'm not always 100% sure and committed to the look that I'm going to do, because it's just like I'm having fun experimenting as well. Now, if someone has an exact look that they want, sure, I'll do exactly what you asked for. And I find it's important when doing someone else's makeup, don't be afraid to gently push on the lid and lift the lid just a tad to get as close to the lash line as possible. Because when there's a gap, it's extremely noticeable on film in particular. Open. And look straight ahead. And when creating a cat eye, you try your best to follow the lower lash, like the literal natural line. And when you don't go against that, a cat eye can look really natural, even though obviously, you know, it's the most unnatural thing to have liquid eyeliner cat eye, but it can look really beautiful on just about anybody. As long as you follow that line, it won't look ridiculous. And one thing I like to do after I've done a liquid is I like to buff it out with a little bit of black and brown so it's not as harsh. So like we talked about before, I'm using a very small, dense brush because you're going to get the most pigment out of the eyeshadow. And I'm buffing it into the lash line right over the liquid that I already put on. And you can see I just kind of go back and forth, pressing it in. And then I'm using a makeup wipe to remove any of the fallout and sharpening that cat eye. Then I start fine-tuning any little things that I've noticed about the eyeshadow, how maybe it's settled into the skin. So you'll see me going back and forth a few times with a makeup brush, a clean one in particular, to just buff out those lines before I go ahead and put mascara and lashes on. So I'm gonna do lashes and mascara, and then I'm gonna do all of the skin because, like I said, like it's gonna be really intense at first to have the eye makeup on, and I just like to kind of build at my darkest point and then like build up everything around it. That way I don't know if it makes sense to you, but it makes sense to me. So I have you open and look down, and you can blink as you need. And this is waterproof. And I like to tell everyone that it's waterproof in case you wash it off later and you're like, this isn't coming off.
Why do you use waterproof versus regular?
Well, I don't always, but for longevity, the majority of the time I'm doing makeup for people who need it to last forever. So it's just a sure thing. Like if your eyes water or you're staring into the sun and you're allergic, I don't want it to come off. So I always have people look down with their eyes open in order to put mascara on the best way, because it's just going to be easier than trying to smash it up into someone's closed eye. You can also get mascara in their eye. So always have them look down with their eyes open. All right, so I'm gonna rock with some individual lashes today, and there's a good chance I'll add regular strips. I don't know, like I'm telling you, I just wing it. Also, I always use latex-free glue because one time, and are you allergic to latex? And normally I would have both options because there was a lash glue I really liked for a really long time. Open and look down. Before I continue that story, I always have people keep their eyes open when I'm applying lashes because it's the most natural the shape's gonna be. That way the lashes don't move, and it's gonna be the best way for you to see exactly how they're gonna look. Okay, carry on. I was doing this girl's wedding in Bar Harbor, and for whatever reason, I didn't have and she had an allergy, and we had to send someone to the pharmacy to get it. And luckily, it was during working hours because, you know, sometimes we start before the sun. But I felt like such an idiot. So now it's just literally all I use now.
I feel like that's what all makeup artist kits are, is like a series of
mistakes
that they learn from and a horror story to go along with each item.
Yep. So you'll see I am applying individual lashes one by one. This can be tedious and time consuming, so really take your time, and it's really important to make sure that you place each lash on the lash line, not on the lid. There's a space in between the lash and the lid, and once you kind of become familiar with it, it is a lot easier to recognize, because if you start popping those lashes on the actual eyelid, it's going to be really obvious, and they're also not going to last very long, because as your eyelid moves through the day with blinking, it's going to potentially pop off. Applying lashes is going to be different for everybody. It's definitely an individual experience, so enjoy this very fast-paced lash application. I had to switch lashes because I ran out of the inner corner ones. A lot of times too, when I'm doing someone's makeup, I need an insurance policy that it's going to stay forever. So I will do a half strip on the ends and then individuals on the inner corner, because those are going to be less likely to pop off. And especially if someone's crying at their wedding or whatever, and you get that little lash lift, an individual is going to stay. Or if you did lose one, it wouldn't break the look. I went ahead and cut out the rest of this lash application video. If you want a more in-depth lash video, put it in the comments below and I'll be happy to make that. But I think for us to get back to the good stuff, we're going to go ahead and move on. Oftentimes too, I'll put mascara on after. It's kind of a game day decision. And I've noticed, because I've never worked with Maggie before, that her she does transfer a little bit when her eyes are open. And so that's another good thing that we thinner application of the eyeshadow primer, because it's going to be easier to buff off, and I can add a little bit more powder there. And sometimes with people with oil or base, the eyeshadow tends to transfer when their eyes are open. So I'm going to use eyebrow gel, even though we just discussed it, but because Maggie is a fan, we're gonna fulfill her eyebrow dream. Yes. So I bend this applicator and stick it in here, and this one's the what is it? The e.l.f. Brow Freeze. I feel like this one's just as good as the Anastasia. Here we're just putting the brow gel into the brows. We do have a makeup base already, so don't push too hard when you're applying the brow gel. And we don't have foundation on yet, so very conveniently we can take a makeup wipe after for any mess that we've made to remove any excess gel. I am using a mattifying primer in the center of Maggie's face. I don't always use primers. It's very based on the need of each person. But this is going to go in the T-zone to help keep her makeup on all day, because this tends to be the shiniest part. I really like to use my hands to apply this primer. I really feel like the heat of your body is going to press it into the pores the best, and you can kind of watch before your eyes as the pores become mattified. So I just apply as needed. It's very visual for me. There's not like a specific amount.
What are you excited for in 2020? 2025, not 2020. God.
I say we're going back in time. I'm excited to move to Nashville. I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury, I can't remember what it's called, and I've washed it so many times with alcohol, the label's gone.
Flawless filter.
Flawless filter, and I really like the e.l.f. one too, so. I'm just gonna use a little bit of that on the high points to create a little glow here with a dense makeup brush that I'm probably also gonna use for her foundation. And you can see I'm just pushing it into the pores. There's really no magical way to do this. You just kind of go with flow, and you want to make sure it's blended into the skin. You don't want to see like chunks of it, so keep blending until you don't really see it anymore and you just have an ethereal glow. I think I'm gonna do NARS Radiant Longwear. It's kind of a sure thing. So NARS Radiant Longwear is a sure thing foundation for any makeup artist's makeup kit, because it really does well on every type of skin, every age. It blends out really well. It photographs beautifully. I really always turn back to it. And you can see I'm using a dense brush, the same one I applied the Charlotte Tilbury with, and I'm buffing this into the skin. And again, I will remind you, the more dense the brush, the more pigment applied.
I love this brush.
Right?
Yeah, I like it.
So just to test the tone, or just to see what it would do, because everybody's skin reacts differently to foundation, and you could color match perfectly and it might oxidize, it might do a lot of things. So I kind of just placed it on there, and you could see it was really white at first and it blended in perfectly. So now I'm gonna load my brush. Like I said before, the more dense the brush, more product apply, but you can kind of work it into your skin to remove some of the extreme. And this is a really good trick too if your foundation didn't necessarily match. Loading your brush, you could kind of get away with using a shade that's a tone or two, too dark or too light, because it's just going to kind of buff into the skin and remove any little spots that you don't like, but not be super cakey. So moving on, you can see I'm just continually pushing this foundation into the skin. You really just want to keep going over spots and blending until you don't see the foundation anymore. The goal is to not see it on the skin and just have a flawless look. And I am going to bring it down the neck as well. Applying foundation is going to be really exclusive to each individual. So we're going to go ahead and speed up through this a little bit. But if you want a more in-depth foundation tutorial, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. But again, like every foundation application is personal to each person. It's going to take as much or as little time as you plan on blending. It can really take forever and you really want to buff it to the bone, or if you're just slapping it on in a hurry. But again, the more dense the brush, the more product applied. So if you want to use a thinner brush, that's going to apply to thinner application. And I'm bringing the makeup down her neck because usually nobody's face and neck and chest match. So I usually match the foundation to the chest, but this part's always going to be really white. So it's important to bring that down, especially for a wedding or a shoot, because it's just not going to match and be really obvious. And you'll notice, oh, they have a different, face color and then here matches, but here's white and it's too much contrast. I am continually blending foundation until the end of time to make sure that it looks like skin. So again, this is going to take as little or as long as you want it to, but the goal is literally to not see it. So just keep going. And when you think you're done, you're not. All right, so I'm really working this into the skin because I want it to be more on the natural side. And we are gonna concealer, contour, all the things. So those are all gonna add up. So a nice thin base, unless you wanna go for the extreme, do you. You'll see I really rarely use a makeup sponge. I have them handy, but I'm really more of a brush person. We're both gonna experience this Dior contour stick for the first time.
Oh my God, I've been obsessed with their foundation sticks. I'm excited. The greatest part about being a makeup artist and also being a girl is that you can go to your friend's house and they're like, I have this great new product I got that I've never heard of. And you get to try them out and then you get to become obsessed and put it in your kit and let everybody else try it.
It's true. So when I'm contouring, I follow the top of someone's ear right here. So like I keep saying, the face is a map. It's doing all the work for you. You just have to be able to see it. So I'm trying to show you. So top here. And I'm just gonna work this into the skin with a clean brush. And if it's too much, we have the foundation we use and we can go right over it and kind of blur things out. But you wanna work this in an upward motion, not down, because you're trying to snatch and lift. I think it's pretty nice. It blended really easy.
Thanks.
I'm using an angle brush. I just find it to be easier. And you could also load your brush, something like this, with the contour. You kind of work it in just the same way that you did your foundation. That would be totally fine as well. I've just never used this product before, so we're both experiencing it together at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and contour all around the hairline, and I'm going to buff that in an upward motion. This is just going to create a nice warm skin effect. And then I'm going to go ahead and contour the jawline as well. This just looks really good in photographs and helps snatch that jaw. Who doesn't want to snatch jaw? And again, if things get out of hand, you can just go back in with your foundation brush. So I'm literally going back in with that foundation brush where the product is already pushed into the bristles, and I'm gently going over the contour because that's going to help diffuse everything and make for a more natural look.
What time in the morning? You're always glam at like 7 a.m., which is just insane.
Usually I get ready early.
Yeah, what are you doing in the morning? What is your morning routine?
Well, most of the time I got to work, so yeah. I got to be ready for anything. But I just feel like wearing makeup to my job is part of my uniform. I've always felt that way. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm not comfortable in my own skin, and that's simply not true. When I'm not working, for the most part, I'm not wearing makeup. It just feels disrespectful to me, to my client, to not come with at least something. Mm-hmm. Because it also makes the person feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That you have makeup on. You're also a lot of times in their photos, especially if it's a wedding. So they're gonna tag you. So at that point, maybe, yes, I'm not comfortable in my own skin, but it's not really that. It's just you just look more put together. So again, I'm just going over the contoured areas with the foundation brush that we've been using throughout the whole video with whatever was left over in the brush from the beginning. For concealer, I'm using the Too Faced Born This Way. It's packed with hyaluronic acid, so it's really hydrating, and it's pretty much good for every skin type. So I usually keep that in my kit. I also really love the Natasha Denona High Glam. I use that on myself especially. But I'm just kind of carving out where I want more brightness. And I also like to start with a hydrating concealer, and I do have like some heavy hitters for after if I decide we need more product. Like for myself personally, I will use the Natasha Denona, and it has really great coverage, but then I'll use Kevyn Aucoin, which is like really thick. So you'll see me just working the product into the skin, adding to the places that I kind of see dark spots or anything like that, and then being really delicate because you don't want to move the foundation underneath, but we're going to start buffing it into the skin with a fluffier brush. This would be like a fluffy concealer brush, and I'm just kind of pressing, not necessarily wiping. Wiping is going to move the product around, pressing is going to push it into the pores. So they both have their purpose, but pressing first before wiping is definitely best because you want the skin to absorb the product. That way it's not sitting on top of the face. And then if you feel like you have too much product, you can go in with a beauty blender and stamp off the excess product. That's going to make things really easy. Especially if you're in a hurry, honestly. Beauty blenders can really speed up the process. I've definitely pulled back a lot with heavy glam. I used to never want any piece of my skin showing. Now I think just as a society, we've become more comfortable as ourselves, which is ironic because we're flooded with internet pictures of all these people and the perfect image of everything and the edited version. And I think people are kind of getting sick of that and being more honest about it. So we're all kind of being invited to be our true authentic selves.
Yeah, because the last thing everyone wants is a sticker shock of like meeting someone that you've seen online in person and you're like, you don't look the same. Height is one thing.
Yeah, I'm super short and I have a little heel on, but people are like, oh my God, I thought you were tall.
Yeah, you read really tall.
And I'm 5'2". So this is a brand new beauty blender. Don't reuse beauty blenders in your kit. I just don't think you can wash them as well. I don't know. But I'm squeezing it, it's damp, and I'm just removing some excess product on the under eye. That's really all you'll see me use it for. It is kind of like a magic eraser, like if you feel like you made a mistake somewhere, buffing over that area with a beauty blender is super helpful. But other than that, like I don't blend the whole face with it. It's a great speed up, like if you're in a hurry, just beauty blender everything. But for the most part, like we're having an experience. These Made by Mitchell color cases are unbelievable. So this is what I was talking about when I said I wanted to do a little more coverage. I'll go into something a little bit more serious. So you take a little scoop. This is kind of a peachy tone. And I'm gonna put that on the back of my hand. You need to work these into the skin. You could do eyeliner, you could do anything, contour. These are really versatile. But I'm gonna let that sit there for a minute because what I like to do is do a little bit of liquid blush and then do the concealer, and it kind of creates a little bit more balance. And I'm just gonna work it into the brush that I've been using the whole time with foundation. That's gonna help blur things out too. So I failed to mention that I'm using Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Liquid Blush. It is the perfect glowy blush for everybody. You'll see it's like a lit from within blush. Then we're gonna go in and work that really heavy concealer into the skin, and I'm using a flat brush to press it into the skin, and you'll see that it melts perfectly together with the liquid blush. So it's kind of like there's no break between the cheek and the under eye. It's just what your skin actually looks like, even though it doesn't, but that's why we blend forever. So I feel good about everything I've done liquid-wise. I'm just kind of taking a brush and moving over a few places. And I'm gonna start powdering. I really like to use a compact powder before I use anything loose. And I'll put that right on a triangle. This is Charlotte Tilbury one. You can see, look up. And I just start pressing it into the under eye. And the reason why I ran that little brush over first is because you don't wanna set a crease. If you see a line with makeup in it, you gotta buff it out before you set it with powder or it's there for life. You could use a brush as well. I just feel like you get more of a condensed powder application when you use these little triangles. And I'm kind of focusing this on the lighter points of the face, not necessarily the cheeks yet, because the bronzer is going to set that. You use a fluffier brush because it just creates a softer bronze. Turn this way. And I'm going to press initially at first really softly so there aren't any streaks. And then softly go around in an upward motion. And just to notice that I am going over where I cream contoured, so it's really easy for you to remember where to put powder bronzer because it's right over what you already did. All right, so remember we talked about the initial using the bronzer to tie everything together. So I'm gonna start nose contouring with this fluffy brush in the same tone we started with. And I do have like a lighter bronzer I was thinking about using for you, but I kind of want you to be like warm and peachy. I don't contour super particularly. I like to keep it soft because I'm gonna sharpen everything with translucent powder. So I'm gonna start using a translucent powder to bake. I like to do it, give it up, really press it in. This is kind of a pink undertoned one, but not as harsh pink. It's Makeup by Mario's. I think it's literally called Pink One. It's really gonna brighten that under eye. And if you ever feel, and we're also snatching the nose by pulling it in tight here, we're creating contrast. But if you ever feel like you've used too much powder, you can literally spray some setting spray, the wet one, not like the alcohol one, and it will rehydrate and it will help kind of bring things back to skin-like texture, which I'll show you. We might as well. That's what we're here for, right? And I like to create contrast here too, just underneath the contour. And I'm kind of following it to the side of the mouth for a little bit. So I'm taking a super, super tiny brush and back into this Mario. I'm just gonna take these kind of tan colors. Look up. And I kind of mix them together. Of course, can't just be easy and do one freaking color. It's the same with blush. I'll use like 10 different blushes and someone will be like, what blush is that?
You had to be there.
I'm sorry. So I'm just really taking my time using a very teeny dense brush to apply the eyeshadow. It's basically the same eyeshadows that we put on the top lid, just creating synergy with the entire eye. This is going to give your eye shape and just, it really makes the colors of your eye pop when you put a nice brown eyeshadow underneath. I kind of want to add a little bit of that Costa Riche as well, just because it's going to grab more of the hazel in her eyes. It's super tight along the lash line. And I could have done that first. It would have been a great base for the eyeshadow, but it was just a decision I made after the fact, so I'm just doing it. It's gonna create more shape for her eye as well. A lot of people get freaked out with underneath eyeliner.
I love it.
Yeah, like if you look at the difference, you can't see it, but you can imagine it. Do you ever get people who want to watch you do makeup the whole time with a mirror? It's so hard. Because then they ask questions that they can't have the answers to. It's just like you have to trust the process.
Yeah, I will get people who really want to look like when I do eyes, and like we just did, eyes and brows first. And so if someone's not used to makeup, that is quite the shock.
Yeah.
So they're normally like, you can tell panic, and I'm very much like, if you don't like anything we do, we can take it off. It's totally fine.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of funny when they look and I'm like, oh, it's not gonna look like this.
I'm using an eye brightening pencil on the inner corners, oh my Lanta, on the waterline, just to create a brightening effect. And it's not white, it's literally like skin toned. It's a little bit more natural. And you took it like a champ, girl, because it can feel really awkward. Look up. I'm bringing that shimmer to the inner corners that we put on the lid earlier, just to bring it all together. And a little bit did fall. Good thing we have that loose powder. Do you ever color in your little mole right here?
No, sometimes. I've done it like twice. I should start making it a thing because it's so like prominent in a good spot.
Well, people now like add moles everywhere. And I remember I used to do it because it would be a zit and I would just draw it into a mole and be like, beauty mark.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Look up.
So this is where I'm applying mascara to the lower lashes and then back on top because we want to blend those individual lashes back into our natural lash. It's going to look the most natural, and this is also how you get a nice fluffy eyelash.
I'm adding Patrick Ta, not too much. It's a peachy blush.
What color is this?
Not too much.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm applying the blush with the same brush I used to apply the bronzer. I find that when there's a little bit of pigment from the bronzer in with the blush, it looks really nice, and that's why I do it. It's science, trust me. Now I'm going to go back in with Charlotte Tilbury 1 powder, and I'm going to buff over everything I just did with the blush because that's going to diffuse things further, and it's going to make for a really natural makeup look. So here you will notice I'm using a clean mascara spoolie, and this is how I'm going to get rid of all of the little mascara stamps that might have fallen down. And you think that they're there forever, but they're not. You want to let them dry and then scratch them off with a little spoolie, and it's like it never happened.
Do you have any people from the hometown who are like maybe weren't your biggest supporters or thought what you were doing was weird or cringy, and now they're the first ones to be like, oh my God, you're so cool, besties?
Yeah, for sure, especially beauty school people. I didn't really have a lot of friends in beauty school. People were really mean to me, honestly, and now they want to be friends. So, and maybe like they're different. It was a long time ago, but I didn't have a very good experience, for sure. And I guess you kind of got to be cringy to get where you're going. You just have to be brave enough to be bad at something for a little while, or maybe it's uncomfortable because it's going to take you further in life. If you just give up because it didn't feel perfect at the time, you're never going to go anywhere. And then you'll be sitting at home being a hater on everybody else because really you gave up too soon on yourself. That's what I think.
Is this a tutorial or a therapist session?
It's probably going to be both.
I like it.
So I'm just going in and kind of deepening up eyeshadow in places that I feel. This is part of my process where I just add things as I move along. The skin also is going to absorb makeup every single time. Like a lot of people fear blush. Oh, I just don't want blush. And it's like, you really need it because it creates, it looks like blood under the skin. You know what I mean? Like life. It's giving life. And it's the first thing to disappear. You can see like I put blush on her and in my opinion, is already faded a little bit. Same thing goes with eyeshadow and different things. The skin is gonna absorb. So it's important to kind of go in layers, and that's why I layer textures and different things to create the perfect makeup look for each person. And another thing, like I said, like she doesn't really need this, but we're gonna rehydrate the skin just to show what it looks like. Close your eyes. Like if you ever feel, that was such a large spray, you should do a pre-spray. If you ever feel like things are just too much powder, rehydrate the skin. And then you can go back in with more powder. You can start over again. I like to take my sponge and kind of press it into so you don't get any of those spots. I didn't do a pre-spray, which was a mistake. That can eat away at makeup, which is traumatizing, especially the alcohol-based ones.
I did use the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. It's a phenomenal setting spray. And again, pressing it into the skin with a beauty blender after you've let it settle just a little bit is going to be really beneficial to the entire application because it's going to stamp down any powder clumps.
So I'm just going back into those hot spots with the Charlotte Tilbury one, kind of the nasal labial fold area and under eye. T-zone. I don't really highlight that often, but I feel like you have great cheekbones for it. Kind of depends.
Oh my God, thank you. What a compliment.
I like Frankenstein's creation, a lot of my palettes. So this one's an hourglass. So I think I'm just gonna start utilizing some of these. The hourglass really blurs. And especially if I'm not too sure how intense I want a highlight to go. And you could put this on your under eye too. It's amazing for blurring. It photographs really well. So you could go literally all the way under if you wanted. But if I'm not too sure about how much highlighter I want to do, I'll start light with the hourglass just to get a little bit of a glow. I'm just adding a little bit of a pink blush in there. And a little bit of your hair, my bad. A lot of times too, close, I'll have them close and I'll kind of dust a little bit of the blush over the eyeshadow open. Gorgeous. And then I'm gonna go with a little bit more of an intense highlighter. Mixing two. You can always spray your brush too and dip in if you want it to be more intensified.
That 2016 look.
Yep. Beaming.
What highlighter are we using on the cheeks in 2016?
Oh man. Probably something Anastasia.
Yes.
Well, yeah, 2016 for sure.
I still use it to this day. It was like one of the first things I like bought for Makeup Forever, but it's like those little pigments and it's the star one and like, I think it's 13. She is blinding. And I'll never like, I don't use it on my like cheeks, but I'll use it on my inner corner on like eyes.
That is a good one.
That's something that'll never like, 2016 is over, but it's not for me.
When I learned how to do makeup, there was no YouTube, no nothing. Like you had to look at a magazine and get inspired.
So do you have any like YouTubers that you like when I say OG YouTube?
Yeah, like
Okay.
Candy Johnson.
Okay. That's so funny. I feel like who you watched really goes to like personality. Like I can see that.
Yep. And I had no money growing up. I grew up super poor, and so literally makeup, I didn't have anything. You had to mix things, and I think that's why I do makeup the way I do, is because I started with so little that I had to make things out of nothing. So like mixing colors and creating from thin air, I guess.
I love that.
And so like when like, oh, you have a favorite product, it's like, well, I never really had fancy products in the start, so I just learned with just pigments and anything I could find to mix and create.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely, the most like growth personally is like when you like have like 5 products in front of you and you're like, I need to make a look. And it's normally on yourself and you can always pull it through, but like blush, bronzer, highlight, you can do so many things.
So you can see here, I'm starting to line the lips, and for some reason I do like one half the bottom, then the other side. I don't know why I do that, but I'm using Makeup Forever Wherever Walnut.
When I'm doing lip liner, I like to use a really natural, close to their lip color liner to start. And that might just be the only color that I use, but it simply just looks more natural. And I like to buff it out a little bit just so it's not as harsh. And then if I decide to go in with like a darker liner, I'll make it a little bit more defined. And you can always go in with your concealer brush and clean up that lip line. And a lot of times I'll layer a liquid lip. This one is Elevate Matte Lip Edit. Fact check me. And so this is going to be a neutral peachy.
Oh my God, I love that color. What's the color?
Fact check me.
You just said that?
So I like doing a matte lip with a gloss on top. That way it lasts longer. Or you could skip the gloss too if you're a matte girly.
Who's asking for matte these days?
No one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And then this is Lawless Nudie. It's pretty much in the same universe as the lipstick color. Rub your lips together. And then when you're done, this is when you would use the setting spray, close, not the hydrating spray. And this is the one I was talking about that can leave a glob. And you can see I still didn't do a test spray. But that makes it waterproof. And it probably poisons you. Open. She's gorgeous.
I'm so excited.
You want to see? Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be me if the mirror wasn't broken or dirty, so here you go.
Oh my God, I look so good.
You always look good.
Shut the fuck up. This is so pretty. Oh my God, I've always... We're all done.
I don't know.
Looks
I don't
so
know what I
good.
did. I just did it. What do I do with my hands?
Thank you so much for watching my YouTube tutorial today. This is not new to me, but it's new and improved, and there will be many more to come. I really appreciate y'all tuning in.